place on this earth for me and mine for it. Work for it, ride for it, I'ma organize for it. Stay up in the night and in the morning I'ma rise for it. Heart for it, mind for it, ears for it, eyes for it. Peace and a place on this earth for me and mine for it.
Hey, peace. Thanks for tuning in to the Money, Power, Land, Solidarity podcast. The title of today's episode is Poor People and Beautiful Things. I was raised by poor people. In 1958, my grandmother and grandfather fled St. Cloud, Minnesota, when that city tried to forcibly sterilize my grandmother because they were both blind and they were poor. They ended up raising 8 kids, including my father, in a working-class neighborhood in southeast Minneapolis. My grandmother still lived in that home in southeast Minneapolis when I was growing up. A big old house with a front porch always full of people. A big old house that became home to many in our community who needed a place to stay, a warm, inviting place where they would be accepted. I was raised by poor people who take care of each other. My grandmother's house was 2 blocks from the Mississippi River, 2 blocks from the beautiful Stone Arch Bridge and historic St. Anthony, Maine waterfront. Around 2008, our family lost that home. At about the same time, luxury condos went up between the home and the river. The literal street we used to walk down to get to the riverfront with our dad and with our uncle was now blocked by a sign that said private drive. Residents of these condos only. This was and is a traumatic experience. We lived and loved and lost on that block so tied to the river, but were not consulted or notified and damn sure didn't have any power in the decision to remake that whole landscape for rich people. We were removed and now the immediate area is home to high rent residences and big real estate value. The seizure and remaking of the riverbank was a shocking moment among a wave of similar changes to space, to buildings, to streets, to corners that I knew my whole life. Places being reappraised, all of a sudden valued by rich people moving in, taking over, remaking, rebuilding, and renaming. I was raised in Northeast Minneapolis, and Northeast Minneapolis began to intensely gentrify about the time I was getting out of college, like 2008. I lived in the neighborhood I grew up in while in college. I commuted to a small liberal arts school in St. Paul and worked full-time as a full-time student. Going to college put me in contact with people from all over the state and beyond, many of whom were excited to move to Northeast Minneapolis upon graduating to start their life as urban professionals. I was constantly in a state of tension and internal conflict. Sad to see our neighborhood history erased. Angry and depressed at the sight of my neighbors being foreclosed. Lonely living between 2 worlds. New college friends who I liked and were cool but couldn't relate to what I was going through, and old neighborhood friends who didn't have the same privilege to step back and reflect on what was going on that I had. I am not the most brutalized by gentrification. I have white privilege and my college degree and social skills allow me to navigate in the gentrified spaces. I shop at the co-op. I go to the coffee shops. My girlfriend and I go on dates sometimes to the hip restaurants. But I am indeed harmed by gentrification. I can barely pay my rent. I was arrested and abused multiple times in the over-policing push that accompanied the real estate boom Northeast. My community has been dispersed. I'm getting more poor while the neighborhoods where I exist are seized by big capital and marketed to professional class suburbanites. I'm both harmed and I participate in gentrification. I now live in a part of South Minneapolis that has predominantly been Native, Black, Latinx, and Somali, that was divested from and overburdened with industrial polluters, predatory lending, and abusive police. It's like the influx of capital caused an earthquake, shaking up the map and spilling people every which way, trying to find footing, scrambling for some stability. I suppose I think so much and feel so much around gentrification because I'm in this particular position, floating between worlds, trying hard to remain and to adapt, to hold on and to let go. All my reflecting on gentrification to this point has led me to this affirmation. I love poor people, and I want beautiful things in my life. I love and I'm committed to the people who raised me. Service industry workers, postal workers, the working poor with 2 jobs or no jobs, the traumatized and resilient, people with debt and bad credit and criminal histories, mentally ill people, homeless people, Black and brown people, indigenous people, and refugees. The global, international working class. I can't lie, I also like organic food and good coffee and bike lanes. I like attractive design and I get excited by architecture. I pay attention to the wood selected to build out the bars and signs at these new spots, the floor plans, the lighting, and the color schemes, and the attention to detail that makes a space feel special in a certain way. I love both poor people and beautiful things, and I can see that capitalism drives a wedge between the two. My position as an exploited worker in capitalism had me thinking that nice things weren't for me or for us, that I should be embarrassed by my interest in art and cooking and design. When I sift through all the physical and emotional responses I have to gentrification, what I get to at the base is a desire for my family and my community to have wealth and comfort. It's not that I just want things to remain as they were. It's that I can see that things haven't really changed. The class and power dynamics haven't changed. The quote-unquote revitalized neighborhoods are mostly new people coming in. For the working and poor people who have been here, life is getting harder. I want the power and class dynamics to change. I want the working people I love to be able to rehab a building or redesign their home, to try out a new entrepreneurial venture, to live a fly and creative life in a beautiful space. I don't want to push poverty around. I want to organize it out of existence. Capitalist economic development can't change the dynamics of exploitation and exclusion that create bad and good neighborhoods in the first place. Capitalist real estate development damn sure won't change these dynamics. Instead, the physical landscape of the hood will be transformed to serve the wealthy, while working class people will be shuffled to a new margin. When projects like the Upper Harbor Terminal come down the pipeline, we hear big promises for renewal for neighborhoods long neglected. But while the physical space may see dramatic change, the lives of the neighbors don't fare as well. What good is a new apartment in the neighborhood if you can't afford to live there? What good is a new restaurant in the neighborhood if you can't afford to eat there, or if the patrons call the police on you for disturbing their ambiance? I see collective, cooperative development as the alternative. Working people pooling our resources and energy to build businesses that serve our community and build wealth in a cooperative manner. The maladies of capitalism don't appear because of bad people. They appear because of the structural dynamics of ownership, labor, and the distribution of value in the capitalist model. Any capitalist attempt to develop a neighborhood will reproduce an exploited laboring class, exclusion of low-wage, no-wage community, and a small number of profiteers. A socialist approach, built on cooperative business and land ownership models, has a better chance at truly developing the quality of life for our neighborhoods. Publicly subsidizing and incentivizing business models where workers are paid a thriving wage and also get dividends from the profits of their operation and have real control over the decisions and functions of their business. Housing and land development models that combine the power of both public and cooperative finance and ownership, using public money to build high-quality, beautiful buildings where rents will be held in cooperative trust and return yields for tenants. Talking about getting productive capital, money, buildings, land, credit, equipment, technology out of the hands of the oligarchs and into the hands of working people to be creative with. I think this will be a reflection I'll come back to as this project continues. I don't want to succumb to bitterness nor resign myself to apathy in the face of gentrification. I want to learn what I need to help create the best life I can for my loved ones and for all working people. We deserve the best, and we are capable of the best. Thanks for tuning in. Money, power, land, solidarity.
We need money, land, solidarity. If you're funny, stand very far away from me. We have running plans about as far as they can see to keep them coming. Bands building up the company. Shauna told me I was gonna be prosperous. I listen. I'm just praying, make a place a positive addition. Try to knock me off my spot would be preposterous. Y'all fishing in this bitch, illuminate like phosphorus. I glisten, gliding like a Christ on the water. Now you're christened, sliding like I'm ice over top the opposition. Hold a vision in my mind and make it pop about fruition. Expanding these dimensions will not crop the propositions. Guaranteed the whole mood.